fire, and math is all that is surrounding you. Math is so much more than 2 plus 2. You can understand it. Take that number and divide it. Math was made for me and you.
Hey guys, this is Mr. Eng. Let's go over the Module 1A test 1.1 to 1.4, November 17, 2023. This is version A. In 1.1, we learned about the average rate of change. 1.2, the standard form of quadratics. 1.3, complex numbers like pirates. And 1.4, factoring quadratic trinomials using the Xbox method. For question number 1, I ask you to match the graph, and there you can see I identified the A, B's, and C's. The A is in front, so this is a 1. And basically what that tells me is if it is positive, then the graph is going to open up like a smiley face. So it's going to be either 1, A, or B. I'm not going to choose C or D. If this was a negative x squared, then it could be C or D. The next one is the C value. The C value is positive 2, and that is your y-intercept. So that would be a positive 2, positive 2. So I'm going to have to do my third one, is the axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry is a graph that folds in half. The formula is x equals negative b over 2a. A lot of students get stuck on this. You have to have the minus sign. The b value is negative 4. So I usually do it like this. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2, and the opposite of negative 2 is positive 2. So this axis of symmetry here is this dotted line. Every x value is 2, and that's why the answer is B. Question number 2 says use the graph and define all the solutions. Select all the pairs of consecutive integers, numbers that are next to each other, between which the roots are located. So the roots, or solutions, are here, where it crosses the x-axis. And you'll notice that it doesn't go through an exact point. So I wrote 0, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. This is between negative 2 and negative 3, which is choice A. This one is between 1 and 2, which is choice E. I'll show you the scoring on that one in the next question. Number 3, what are the solutions of x squared plus 81 equals 0? And I chose to solve this by the square root property, or the square root method. And this works when you have an A and a C. So you could use factoring, and you can just do A as 1, C as 81. You can do that. But I chose to use square root. I just subtracted the 81, took the square root of both sides. Remember, this breaks down the factors of negative 1 and 81. So square root of negative 1 is I. Square root of 81 is 9. If you chose factoring, you would have to just do 9i and negative 9i. Okay, so your answers are C and D. How did I score both questions 2 and 3? If you got both of the problems correct and nothing wrong, then you got 2 points. If you got one question correct, you got 1.5. You got 1 point, or 1.5 points for if you got one correct, and then minus 0.2 for every incorrect that you circled for questions 2 and 3. Alright, in the electricity problem, what is the voltage of V of an electric circuit with a current C of 6 minus J and an impedance L of 4 plus 3J? Use the formula V equals CL. Okay, so C is 6 minus J. And in class we didn't use J, we used I. And then L was 4 plus 3J. And you'll notice in the formula it is multiplication because they're next to each other, there's no plus or minus. So I'm going to multiply these. The common mistake is just to multiply the first and last. You can use FOIL, double distribution. I'm going to be using this box. I'll put this one on top, this one on the bottom. You're going to multiply first, then you're going to add 24, negative 4j, 18i, and this is going to be positive times negative is a negative. 3 times 1 is 3. I times I is I squared. And then in class, we talked about how I squared is equal to negative 1. So this is negative 3 times negative 1, which will result in a 3. So I put 24. We just multiply, now we're adding 14i and 3. Add those together, you get 27. 27 plus 14j is your answer. Number 5, factor and solve the quadratic. A is 1, B is negative 6. They're the numbers in front. Then I can use my Xbox method. A times C is negative 27. The B value is negative 6. You can list out all the factors. Choose this one, 9 to 3. We need numbers that multiply to be negative 27, but the same two numbers add to be negative 6. So this would have to be a negative 9. Negative 9 times 3 is negative 27. This adds to be negative 6. Let's go ahead and fill out the box. So you're always going to put in the A term. This negative 6x is being split between these two, so you need to add an x. Negative 9x, 3x. This is also called factoring by grouping. And then your last term is here. Figure out what they have in common. So over here they have an x, positive 3, and negative 9. The outside is my answers, x plus 3, x plus 9 for factoring. That would be choice B. So this is going to be 2 points or nothing. And then this next part, what are the solutions? Okay, so to get solutions, you set it equal to 0. And then one of these expressions has to be equal to 0. Something times something equals 0. One of these has to be 0, so we put both of them equal to 0. And get negative 3 and 9. So that would be A and B. If you get both these right, 2 points. If you got one of these right, you get 1.5. Okay, question number 6. What is the average rate of change for this function? This is your x1. Pay attention, this is your x2. So this is an interval. This is not an order pair. Okay? So let's put that in. F of x for the first value and I'll do the same thing for the second one. Okay, so in this problem, x1 is, so I'm evaluating separately. So every time I see, oh, shouldn't use that pen, it leaks. We're going to put in a 2. F of 2 equals 2 times 2 squared minus 5 times 2. PEMDAS, so that would be 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 minus negative 5 times 2 is negative 10, so this would become negative 2. F of 2 equals negative 2. And over here I'm going to do the same thing. So we're going to use x2 is now going to become 4. So I'm going to do a substitution here. I plug in 4 for the x value. Again, I'm going to use PEMDAS here. 16 times 2 is 32. That becomes negative 20. And subtract, you get 12. Okay, so let's review what we've done. This is your x1 value, and this is going to be your y1 value now. This was your x2 value. This is your output, which we call your y2 value. So to get the average rate of change, you're just going to use your slope formula. Y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm going to highlight the subtraction sign because a lot of students get stuck on this one right there. So my y2 value is 12. My y1 value is negative 2. Substitution in parentheses. My x2 value is 4. Remember, the minus sign has to be there, regardless if this one is negative or not. So x1 is 2. So 12 minus negative 2, that becomes plus. So 12 plus 2 is 14 divided by 2, and that will give you 7. Our average rate of change is 7. We've talked about in class, if you graph this, I can actually give you an answer, 2x minus 5. So it's going to cross at 0 and 5 halves. The graph's going to look like this, facing up. A value is positive. And then we're saying between x equals 2, so let's just say this is 2, and x equals 4, make something like right here. So what is the slope of the graph from, well, we know what it is, 2, negative 2, so it's like here, and then 4, 12. So what is the slope of that point? And that is the slope of 7. Rise of 7, rise of 1. Let's go to the back side. Okay, in this problem, you could simplify it by simplifying this one separately and this one separately. You don't want to put them in the square root and then multiply. So negative 16 times negative 36. The reason why you can do this is because the index of that number is the same. Okay, so that will become negative 1 times 16, and this one will become negative 1 times 36. The square root of negative 1 is I, and the square root of negative 1 is I. Or essentially that's I squared on the outside. Square root of 16, this comes out, that is 4. And that one is a 6. So here you're going to get 24i squared. I squared is equal to negative 1. So your answer is negative 24. Alright, number 8. Given the graph, find the following interval notation. Domain goes left to right. So my graph's over here. I'm going to label my domain. So we're just focusing on this question, just this blue here. So over here is negative numbers, positive numbers. So arrow means automatically negative, positive. Your answer is negative infinity to positive infinity. Remember, you're always using parentheses with infinities. The range, my phrase is bottom to top. What are the outputs of the graph? Well, we start here at 3 on the pink. Pink is for the range. So again, negative numbers, positive numbers, but the graph doesn't start until 3 on the Y, and then finishes up here at positive infinity. So that is your answer. Question number 9. simplify 3i to the fourth. We can do this in a couple of ways. I think of I to the fourth is I squared to the power of 2. Now, if that doesn't make sense to you, you can also do just I squared times I squared. And you could, but that's really, a bunch of i's, right? But I want to leave it at I squared because we know that from the previous problem, I squared is equal to -1. So negative times a negative is a positive. So positive 1 times 3. The answer is just 3. (10a) Given the quadratic equation over here, what is the vertex? Okay. So standard form. I have no parentheses. A is -1. B value is -2. C is 3. X equals -b all over 2a. Alright, my b value is -2. My a value is -1. That becomes -2. -2 divided by -2 is 1. Opposite of 1 is -1. How do you find that order pair? Hint, the axis of symmetry, then sub it back into the order pair. So basically what we're doing is taking this and now putting it in for every x value. Let's do that. Y equals, pay attention, that negative sign is on the outside. -1 squared minus 2 times -1 plus 3. Exponents first, that's 1. The opposite is -1. That becomes a positive 2. So 5 minus 1 is 4. -1, 4. Okay, with the -1, 4, I'm going to put that now. Given the vertex you found in the previous question, fill out the table of values. So here is -1, 4 from the top here. Okay, so if I just pick -1, this is going to be my axis of symmetry. I'm taking 2 numbers to the left, -2, -3. That would be 2 numbers to the right, 0 and 1. Find one value output by hand. I think 0 is the easiest one, so here's the original problem. I'll put in 0. This is back in 10a. That's 0, opposite of 0, 0, 0, 3. So my answer is 3. Alright, so I'm using a Casio. You can press mode, then table number 3. I'm going to type in this equation. Negative alpha, right parentheses, squared minus 2 alpha right parentheses plus 3. When it says g of x, you're just going to press enter. Okay, where do I want to start? You must start with the smaller number, so that would be -3. Where do you want to end? We want to end at 1. Press enter. The step is how are they going, so it's increasing by 1. And then there is my table of values. -3, 0. -2, 3. -1, 4. Press down. 1, 0. 0, 3, and 1, 0. Okay, so let's go ahead and graph it. -3, 0. Left 3, stay. Left 2, up 3. Left 1, up 4. 03, and write Wednesday. You'll notice that the vertex, this is your highest point here, it is on the axis of symmetry.
Finding yourself bored and numb? Well, no worries, cause now you can get the all-new Eng Pods. So now you can listen to math on the go or on the road. So why stall? Get the all-new Eng Pods today.